Hey y'all, best practices. This is terminology. If you've been in any workspace, you've heard this. What are best practices? Share your best practices. It's a great phrase because practice implies action, something that we're doing. And if it's the best of the best, why not share it with someone else? They can either hear it and say, boom, that would work for me. Let me try it. Or they can hear it and be like, that's not my style. It's not going to sustain me. So I want to talk a little bit about how you are thinking about your day-to-day best practices in your personal life, not just professional, day-to-day small best practices, and how these can actually be turned into things that you're constantly celebrating and feeling good about yourself for. Because the shame, the guilt, the worry, the doubt, the imposter syndrome, all the negative things, those are easy for us to grab onto. A lot of us do it quite often, but the area of growth for many of us is how often are we celebrating these best practices that we're just engaging in them so often, we're not even seeing them as really awesome things to be incorporating in our life. So some examples at the most basic level, okay? You go to pump gas, you naturally keep a bottle of sanitizer or wipes in your car so that immediately after you can wipe off your hands, you feel that you're sanitized, you go off into the world with nice clean hands. That's a best practice that you're engaging in every time you go and get gas. I like to spend time in my kitchen and cleaning as you go. Cleaning as you cook is a best practice. Workplace. Let's say you're on a Zoom session, 30-minute meeting, and you're really in it. So you didn't fully capture maybe every single note because you paused, you shared some things. Maybe you looked something up for a colleague and included it in the chat. So there were moments where you didn't process. So a best practice would be getting off that meeting and in your calendar naturally embedding maybe a 30-minute chunk of time in there so that you can bullet point, get a few more things down. Maybe immediately follow up with that colleague. Somebody you said, I'm going to send you something. Maybe you do that right away. So best practices that you're engaging in. Maybe it's something that you're doing in your morning or your evening routine. Maybe you have a best practice where you have a mental check-in or a physical check-in that you do with yourself before you have a conversation with someone. What are your best practices? And they can be very small, but if it's something you find yourself consistently doing, coming back to each time, there's a why for it. So that might even be a good starting point. Actually taking time with looking at what am I constantly going back to? Daily or weekly? Why? What is it about this that's allowing me to keep this a best practice? And then taking those answers, that formula, and bringing this into another part of your life where you want to do the same thing. But you got to start with the props because we're tough on ourselves. Best practices is easier and it's a little bit more scholarly than saying, I'm going to give myself a high five. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. Give yourself some best practices props. Take it, use it, share that idea with someone else. See how you can incorporate this into your family, into work. Maybe at the dining table, you throw that question out. What were some of your best practices today? Maybe you lead meetings with that. Give us your bright best practice. So prop it up, y'all. If you're not doing it, your coach is going to keep giving you tips until this is natural. Have an awesome day.